Hi, Daryl and Dimitri, and Talofa, to Aubrey and Ellie and Francis and Yvette. Bonsoir to Joshua and Keisha, Latensa and Maline and Minsuk and Mira. Hatalofa to Nathaniel and Nea and Ribalben and Rose and Sefan and Sanimbe. And hi, Elizabeth. And Miss Shanda, I see you're in attendees, so I'm going to promote you to panelists so you can join me up here. Welcome to the OUM community, everyone. I'm Associate Professor Nicolette McGuire, and I'm OUM's Associate Dean for Student Engagement. And I'm also a member of our preclinical faculty. And I'm joined today by Ms. Shanda Gordon, who is our acting Chief Marketing Officer. And we're so pleased to have you join us today to provide you with some information about admissions to our program and answer any questions that you may have. So welcome to the OUM's admission information session for January 2026. So here is our agenda for this session. Ms. Shanda and I will introduce ourselves. We'll give you a bit of an overview of the university. Ms. Shanda will talk about the admissions requirements, the process for admissions, the requirements that you have for getting in your application, including the dates and various documentation that you need to submit. We'll talk a little bit about the interview process and make sure you know what to expect and you're comfortable with that. Then we'll pass it back to myself and I'll talk about the curriculum. I will introduce our student ambassador program and how you can get in contact with some of our students if you'd like to speak with a student about their experience. I'll tell you a little bit about our support programs and show you how to get some more information if you think any of those programs would be helpful to you as you make your decision regarding your medical student journey. And then we'll have some Q&A and talk through next steps. So throughout the session, if you do have questions on the topics that Ms. Shanda and I are talking about, please feel free to use the Q&A box to submit those questions. We'll either answer them right at that time or we'll hold them until the time we get to that part of the presentation. So you're always welcome to ask and we'll do our best to get to all the questions today. Anything we don't answer, we'll make sure that your admissions counselor gets back to you directly with that answer, because this session is all about supporting you as you make your decision along your medical student journey. All right, Ms. Shanda, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure thing. Thank you, Associate Professor McGuire Carter. And welcome, everyone. I'm happy to see you all here today. So my name is Shanda and I'm admissions counsellor here for Australia, New Zealand and Samoa. And I'm located in Brisbane, Australia. And yeah, I look forward to answering all of your questions today and helping you with any current or future applications to OUM.
Thanks, Ms. Shanda. And I just want to say some hellos to folks that were coming in as I was doing our introductions to Talofa to Sharing and Rose and Pepper and Nakia and Molly and Luigi and Leilani and Joshua and Joanna and Yvette. Bonsoir to Franklin and Eukaria, Amani, and Christina and Caroline and Brandon and Bindu and Andrea. And hi again to everyone that we said hello to already. So Talofa is the way that we say hello in Samoan. Okay, so introductions. We've done our intros of ourselves, and hi to those of you who are joining us as attendees. If you like, you're more than welcome to introduce yourself in our Q&A. We always like meeting you and learning a little bit more about you, so feel free to introduce yourself if you like, not required. All right, I'm going to pass it over to you, Ms. Shanda, to talk a little bit. Oh, no, this is my part. I'm going to talk about the university, right? I saw admissions info and then I just stopped reading entirely. Okay. So we'll both talk about this. How about that?
Sounds good.
Okay, so OUM, it has been around. We were originally had our mission chartered in 2000. We started offering our program in 2002. We are located in Apia, Samoa, and our home hospital is Te Pua Tamasese Mea Ole Hospital, which you can see pictured here, which is in the beautiful city of Apia, Samoa. We serve students who are interested in becoming clinicians that serve underserved communities in Oceania and beyond. So that includes Samoa, as well as New Zealand, Australia, United States, and Canada. And we offer a hybrid curriculum. So what that means is that in your preclinical courses, that is your first couple of years, your classes are online. So you are able to live, work, and play in your home area whilst attending medical school. So our classes run at 8 p.m. North American Eastern Standard Time and at 8 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time to accommodate students across the world, across the jurisdictions that we serve. As well, we offer recorded lectures and recordings of those live classes. Our library is all online. Anatomy is taken online through a program called Complete Anatomy. You're welcome to have a look at Complete Anatomy if you're curious about that. A lot of medical schools have moved away from doing cadaver dissection to using virtual methods that provide a wealth of information and learning experiences. So we pride ourselves in being able to offer virtual tools that enhance your education and allow you to remain in place for your first couple of years. So why that's hybrid is that once you enter your clinical rotations, you're on site in clinics and hospitals. Generally, students who are in Australia will have their clinical rotations in Australia. Students who are in the United States will have their clinical rotations in the United States, so on and so forth. But all of our students do at least 4 weeks of rotation at our home hospital here in Apia, Samoa. And one of the most popular rotations is actually the obs and gynae rotation. And you'll find a really well-rounded and incredible learning experience at that hospital. You'll get to do and see things that you wouldn't otherwise experience in your home hospitals. So our program is very rigorous, although we have our first 2 years online and our second 2 years in clinics across the jurisdictions that we serve. You're not going to find this an easy path, easier than any other medical school. In fact, we have the same level of rigor as you would find elsewhere. Everyone's going to tell you that medical school is not easy. A lot of people will say it's like drinking from a fire hose in terms of the amount of information that you need to consume and retain. But you'll find that the members of our community are up for that challenge and that they are here to support each other to do it. So another thing that makes us different, other than our hybrid curriculum, is that instead of having a very competitive environment where our students are competing against each other to get the best marks, the best rotations, so on and so forth, we have a very collaborative approach at our university where from day one, we are supporting our students to develop study groups, to connect with each other on a personal and academic and professional basis, and to support each other's learning, both by using their backgrounds they come in with. So some of you might have healthcare backgrounds or engineering backgrounds or teaching backgrounds, or maybe you're just out of university. Wherever you happen to be at and come from, whatever languages you speak, whatever experiences you've had on your journey towards medical school, we welcome that into our classrooms and use it as a basis for ensuring that all our students have a well-rounded education with lots of perspectives added. Okay, so in terms of accessibility, We have been originally designed to offer services for non-traditional students, that is, students that need to go to a school in the first couple of years that is online so that they can live their lives in the way that they would like to. It's a global school, so we allow you to be in your home country for the duration of your degree, except for that 4-week compulsory rotation in Samoa. And we also allow that to be scheduled at your leisure for the most part during your clinical years. And then finally, excellence. So we're internationally accredited. I highly encourage you to go on the licensing and accreditation website for your country and make sure that you will find OUM, make sure that you find OUM or any of the other universities that you're looking at. The last thing that you would want to do is go down a path of entry into a medical school and then not be able to be eligible for licensure in the area that you wish to practice. So our program is accredited by PASCU and is recognized by WFME, which is the World Federation for Medical Education, and is therefore acceptable for licensure in all the countries that we offer our students entry. But encourage you always to do your own background checking on that as you're going through your journey towards figuring out where you'd like to attend medical school. Miss Shanda, what have I forgotten that you want to mention here?
Absolutely nothing. You have covered it all.
Okay. All right. Now I'm going to pass it over to you for the admissions requirement. Please go ahead whenever you're ready.
Yeah. All right, everyone. So I'm here to talk about the entry requirements. So we're just going to run through those and the application process as well, and the admissions process in its entirety. So we'll start with the admissions requirements. The minimum entry is for entry into the program is you need to have completed a bachelor's degree from an accredited institution. If you've completed other qualifications or degrees above that, that is fantastic, and we would like to see those as well, but we do want to see your bachelor's degree. If you have studied outside of the 5 countries shown below, we will need to evaluate your degree. So that's really important to know that, because the evaluations can take some time. So it's really important to contact your admissions counsellor or the admissions office, if you have studied overseas outside of those 5 countries, so that we can talk to you about the plan for that and how to get your degree evaluated. We have a competitive GPA, so applicants require a GPA of 3 on the 4-point scale or 5.5 on the 7-point scale, or its equivalent. So if you have attended at an institution that uses a different grading system, you can send us your transcripts with the grading system attached, your official transcripts with the grading system attached, and we can calculate your GPA. So we can figure out where it sits on that scale. And if your GPA is below the requirement that's set above there, you can reach out to your admissions counsellor again or the admissions office to discuss your case, and we can give you some advice on that. We do assess holistically, so that's really important to know. So all applicants must meet our English language proficiency requirements. If English is your second language, but you've studied at an English-speaking institution, you should meet the requirements. But if you're unsure, you can contact, again, your admissions counsellor or the office, and we can advise you if you do meet them or whether we need you to sit an English exam and what exams we accept. We also have residency requirements. So all applicants must reside in or be citizens or permanent residents of Aotearoa, New Zealand, Australia, Samoa, Canada, or the US, which includes American Samoa. So that's really important. And I'll just point out that at OUM, we don't require GAMSAT or MCAT scores for entry. So that's a big plus. All right, next slide, please.
I just wanted to quickly say, I'm really enjoying this photo here of our students. I think this is in Brisbane after our clinical skills course. And I just like seeing each and every person. I'm like, oh, I remember, like, they weren't sure if they were going to get to that point and had, like, everybody has some difficulty that occurs like during medical school, and they're like, I'm not sure I can like go on. So it's so nice to see. I don't want to name them here by name, but it's nice to see each of them here, and they're so happy after completing their clinical skills course, which we offer. This one is offered in person in Brisbane. Okay, now I'm changing the slide.
Thank you. All right, so the next thing we're going to talk about is the admissions process. So the best advice I can give you is please talk to an admissions counsellor. The OUM program is unique with its online curriculum and the fees, etc. So it's just really important you reach out and talk to us. Make sure you get all of your questions answered. Make sure that we've had a look at your application or got a feel for your application so that you've got all the information you need before you either start an application or submit your application. The second thing you need to do is understand the commitment that is required for this program. So, the MD program is a full-time intensive program. As Nicolette said, it is like the drinking from a fire hose. So you just really have to understand the intensive nature of the program and the huge time commitment it takes. So not just you, though, you have to also have these conversations with your loved ones so that you all understand that commitment. And also the financial commitment. What is this program going to cost, and can you afford it for the length of the program? As we are a Samoan institution, our students are generally not eligible for government student loans, so you do have to be able to pay out of pocket. So it's just really important that you make sure that you understand that financial commitment as well. And we do run financial information sessions as well, and they'll be on our webinars page on the website. So you can have a look there for the next one. I think the next one's coming up in February, and I think I talk about it a little later on. So once you have all of your questions answered and you understand all the commitment, etc., you can apply online. So you apply on our website. That's just oum.edu.ws, and it's just in the top right-hand corner is the Apply Now button. We have 2 intakes per year, January and July, and it's really important that you submit a complete application by the deadline, which is stated there. So 1st of September for January, 1st of March for the July intake, because we do not accept late or incomplete applications. So it's really important that you start your application early and submit it completely by the deadline. All right, next slide, please, unless there's any questions. All right, so application requirements. So we need your official transcripts from all of your tertiary studies. So obviously the bachelor degree is most important, but we also want to see everything else. And it's most important if you have done credit studies from other institutions where it's been given to you for your bachelor's degree, etc. We also need to see those transcripts. So we want to see them all. And if we notice anything missing from your application, we'll just point that out and say, we see credit on this transcript. Can you provide the transcripts for that credit? With how you send the transcripts, they can be sent through verification services that most institutions use now. But it's all on your application. So have a look there. And if you're unsure, just reach out to your admissions counsellor and they'll be able to give you some advice on how we would like to see those transcripts. What else can I tell you? That's all for the transcripts. So letters of recommendation. We need 3 letters of recommendation, and one of them has to be from a medical doctor. And that one is a non-negotiable. So you just have to either get to know a doctor. Hopefully you've worked with one in the past, and get a letter from them. And with the letters of recommendation, it's really important, if possible, if they could be from professional references, so people you've worked with, ideally in healthcare, but it's not a requirement that they do have to be from healthcare. But they'll just look better on your application. However, if you've only got character references or your GP is the only doctor you know, then that's what we'll accept. But yeah, better if they're professional references instead of character references. The next thing is personal essay. So this is your chance to tell your story. Tell us why you want to study medicine. Why do you want to be a doctor? What motivates you? What inspired you? It says 1,000 words. We don't really have a limit, but I do encourage people, no more than 2 pages. Our important faculty members are part of the panel and they will read these essays. So it's just, we don't want to take up too much of their time. So try not to make it too lengthy. And then finally, we also need your CV or resume, so where it details your work experience, your education, and more, just so we can see what you've been up to. And just a reminder again, we need all of those documents, including your letters of recommendation, which come from other people. I'll actually talk about that a little bit more. With the letters of recommendation, when you're filling in your application, you put your reference details into the application, and then once you pay the application fee, that is the trigger for us to then reach out to your references and ask them for the letters. So they don't come from you directly. So it's really important that you start your application early, put the references in, and pay the application fee as early as possible. So that gives your references time to get their letters into us before the deadline, because that counts towards your complete application. So yeah, don't forget to submit your application by the deadline. We also send out many, many reminders to say what's outstanding and how long you've got. So you've got no reason not to get your application into us by the deadline. And you can also track your progress for your online application, in your online application, there's a nice checklist and it ticks off things when it's complete and it shows crosses when it's not. So just keep an eye on your application there as well. All right, next slide, please.
We have a question from Meline.
Sure.
Asks, hi, and she waves, hi. I would like to know, is a recommendation letter from a physician required? If so, what if it's hard to obtain that letter due to lack of shadowing opportunities? Is that an automatic disqualification? Thank you.
Yes, so it's a non-negotiable. You do have to have a letter from a physician. So if you can't get that, then yes, your application will be considered incomplete. Therefore, you can't submit. So yeah, if at all possible, you can talk to the doctor that you normally see. That's one of the things you can do. But you can also talk to your doctor that you see regularly and say, is there any opportunity to shadow you? And then maybe perhaps even for a day or two, you can shadow them, and then they'll get to know you. You'll get to know the role of a physician, etc. And then, they'll be able to write a recommendation letter for you based on that chance you've had shadowing them. So yeah, you do need a letter from a medical doctor.
Yeah. And it's not weird to do that. A lot of students do that. Don't be afraid to ask your own doctor. Okay, I'm going to move to the next slide, Damatuna.
All right. So this is the application and interview process. So once you've submitted your application before the deadline, when the deadline comes along, the admissions counsellors will assess your application, usually within 2 weeks of the deadline, and then we'll start contacting you with the outcome. So if you are successful, you will get an invitation to attend a screening interview, and that interview will be with your admissions counsellor, and we'll talk about your application, your motivation, and your understanding of the program, and much more. If that then goes well, you will then move on to a panel interview. And again, we'll invite you to a panel interview. The panel will consist of our faculty, staff, and they will talk to you about your personal attributes, motivations, commitment, understanding of the program, etc. And then within a week of that interview, we will know the outcome and we'll be able to let you know whether you have been accepted or not. And that's pretty much the admissions process. Any other questions that you can see, Nicolette? Let's see.
Anonymous wants to know this. Hello. Does it have to be a medical doctor from one of the countries you mentioned, or can the doctor be from any country? I think they mean the recommending letter writing doctor. Yes.
Yes, it can be from any doctor, but as long as they know you personally, perhaps hopefully have worked with you, we can accept that.
Okay. And Yvette would like to know, does it have to be a practicing doctor or can they be retired?
We do prefer if they're practicing, but if all you have is a retired doctor, then we can consider that as well.
Okay. There's one question that's kind of long, so I'm just looking through if there's anything admission related. Just give me 1 second.
I can see a message there about a transfer. I can answer that while you look.
Okay. Will you accept letters of recommendation from education administrators instead of MDs?
Yes, we will. Faculty from previous institutions is also acceptable.
Okay. And this is kind of interesting. Whether or not we can answer this, I don't know. How do I frame my special education background as patient advocacy experience in my application essay?
Well, I'm no expert on that department, but
I would up to you. I'm honestly up to you. How do you think that applies? Tell us the story.
Yeah, just the most important thing with the essay, though, I'm going to point out is that it has to be in your own words. I know ChatGPT is affecting us in all sorts of ways, but yeah, try and write it yourself and put it in your own words. And yeah, just tell us your story. Tell us why you want to be a doctor and why it's important to you. Just talk from the heart.
Yeah, we want to know about you.
Mm.
We are really interested in not just like taking a cookie cutter, a rectangle, right? And just like shaping it and putting it out. Like, we're interested in you and the unique things that you're going to bring to our community and the unique things that you will bring to being a clinician. So use that essay as an opportunity to talk about you and what kinds of things you bring as uniquely you. Don't worry that you have to have certain requirements in that essay or have to prove that you've like had a certain amount of healthcare experience. Just talk about yourself. Okay. Molly Says, Hi all, I'm Molly Mbonde. Hi, Molly. My question is, what happens when your GPA is low, but you're really interested in studying medicine, or should you consider yourself out?
No, never consider yourself out. Just reach out to the admissions counsellor. We'll talk to you about your situation and we'll talk about your healthcare experience or whatever you have, and we will give you advice on what you should do. So if your GPA is lower than the requirements on the website, please reach out to your admissions counsellor or the admissions office.
We're not interested in just numbers.
Yeah,
We're
we
interested
assess
in you
holistically.
as a person. So like if you're really like if OUM is the school for you, like invest time in getting to know your admissions counselor and talking with them about the things that you need to be successful. I cannot emphasize enough what Miss Shanda already said about like the number one thing being connecting in with the admissions counselor. And I know sometimes that's scary. You're like, oh, like I don't want to talk to someone live, like, because that makes it real. Like I can just get the information on it. But they're so nice and they have so much
We are.
information. It will really help you in your decision making if you can just talk to someone, get the answers that you need, make sure it's the right fit for you, all of those things. So that's what our admissions counselors are
Yeah.
for.
And there's a range of ways to talk to us. You can schedule an appointment, you can call us on the phone, or you can email us, and we're happy to answer your questions. We are very friendly, I promise.
Yeah. We pride ourselves on that. Okay. Anonymous also would like to know what percent of applications make it all the way through the process of admission?
I don't know the actual percentage, but as we just talked about, we ask everyone to contact us first so we can sort of screen people as we go. We can give you advice, etc. So usually the acceptance rate is high. Once we've had the chance to have a chat to you, we can, give that advice. Should you apply? Should you not apply? What can you do to your application to make it better? So it's usually good, but it's the panel you have to get through.
Yeah, if you get all the way to that point, usually the process that's high because you've already figured out if it's going to be the right fit, and we've already,
Yeah,
assessed all the things that we need. Okay,
exactly.
Eucharia wants to know, I would like to ask, I have a bachelor's from the UK, a master's from Australia, and graduate certificate from Australia. So very well-rounded. The West verification takes a lot of time. Can I remove my UK study and use only my master's and graduate certificate for the application?
Yes, no, unfortunately you can't. The bachelor's degree is the minimum requirement, so we do want to assess that. And as I said, the evaluation, we need to determine whether it's comparable to the US and Australian education systems. And we need to do that through an evaluation. So we do need that evaluation, and that is part of your complete application. So it is important that you order that evaluation quite early on so that it gets to us in time, because it can take up to 8 weeks to get that evaluation. And we know that. That's why we put it on the website to say if you've studied overseas outside of these 5 countries, we need an evaluation. Order it early.
Yeah. Okay. Can letters of recommendation from the MD be sent from the Interfolio platform? It's a third-party professional reference, LOR, for students to send to schools here in the USA. Do we use the Interfolio program, Shanda? No.
No, I've never heard of it. What we do is you will put their contact details in the system and we will email them directly. So if they've done a letter for you at some point, they should be able to put it and it needs to be current. It can't be a letter they wrote 5 years ago. It needs to be dated within 1 year of your application. So I imagine they'll just have it saved on their computer and they can just edit it and upload it to our system.
Okay. This is from Malik. Hello, I'm Malik Simpson. Hi, Malik. My question is, should submissions be by the due date that way or before, so correction can be made to the application with your admissions counselor?
Yeah, the earlier the better. We won't look at the applications until after the deadline, though. So you can edit. You can contact us and say, how does it look? And we can give you a general overview of your application. But yeah, earlier the better. But if it needs to be before the deadline, that's all that really matters.
Okay. Franklin wants to know, what is the minimum GPA required in the program?
It really depends on your qualifications. Where have you studied? Or not where have you studied, but have you done healthcare experience? Do you have anything else that would give you bonus points when we do your assessment on our rubric? So I just can't answer that, but you should aim for the GPA that's on the website. But if you're unsure, like I said, reach out to your admissions counselor and we'll take a look at everything and we'll see.
Okay. I just after I read that, I thought maybe they meant the GPA like while you're in the program. So maybe I'll just answer that and say that you have to all classes you must pass, and our passing grade is 60%. So you have to get a 60% um, or above on all your classes. So that's our minimum GPA for once you're in the university. Okay, I do see some more questions. If we haven't got your question yet, not to worry. I do see them, but we'll get to them when we get to that part of our webinar today. Okay, Michelle, anything else you want to say about application or interview process before we move to the next part?
No, all good, all done.
Okay, all right. Okay, OUM curriculum. Okay, so our curriculum is broken into three separate phases, and you can find some more information about these on the website as well. And I also encourage you, if you want some more information about what it's like to be in each of these phases, to talk with our student ambassadors, who I'll give you a little bit of an overview about who they are and how to contact them later on in this session. And yay, here's some more students at their clinical skills course and learning their clinical skills here in Brisbane. Okay, so first is the preclinical phase. So the preclinical phases, we have a general principles class, which gets everybody basically on the same footing. So no matter if you're just out of your bachelor's degree or you finished your bachelor's 20 years ago and you've been in healthcare for the last 20 years, you've been teaching the last 20 years, and you don't remember very much about cell biology, immunology, genetics, so on and so forth, that's what our general principles class is for. It gets everybody on the same footing with the basics that they are going to need for their medical sciences systems, which are the remaining classes in the preclinical phase. So the systems courses are live. We have class 3 days a week, either at 8 p.m. US and Canadian Eastern Standard Time, or at 8 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. You do not need to go to both classes. We discourage you from doing that because your time will be better spent studying and meeting with your study group, reading, so on and so forth. So you only need to go to class once. We also have recorded lectures that are provided on the weekend before. So you usually have about 8-ish hours of recorded lectures. And then we have 3 live classes, which are 2 hours each. All of those classes are recorded. So if you're not able to attend class live, you're able to have access to that recording through the duration of the class. So you get it when you want to look at it right away, you get it during your study, you get it if you want to bring it up in your study group, certain things that were discussed, you have access to that Zoom recording throughout your class. Those live classes are instructor led, but they're not lectures. They're more like discussion sections where we go in and we talk about a patient case, or you get a set of labs and you have to interpret the labs or read the imaging. So those classes are really about how do we start applying some of the information that you're learning about the science and anatomy and physiology and biochemistry and pathophysiology in each of our topic learning objectives. How do you apply that to various cases and in the medical context? So that's what the preclinical phase is all about. So the preclinical phase runs for 2.5 years. Or 2 years, and then you go into your transition phase, which is up to 6 months. The clinical transition phase includes 2 clinical transition units. So you can see the culmination of the second clinical transition unit here, which is a week-long in-person opportunity to practice clinical skills like history taking, physical examinations, suturing, etc. Clinical transition phase, you also learn things like medical ethics and behavioral sciences, professionalism, patient care, so on and so forth. So our clinical transition phase is even more flexible than our preclinical phase. The classes are designed to be the 2, we call them CTUs, clinical transition units. There's two 8-week classes, but you can take up to 16 weeks for each one, depending on if you just want to dive more into the content in a particular week, or maybe you are trying to prepare financially for your clinical phase. So you're trying to work a lot more and you want to just spread out those classes a little bit more. There's a bit more flexibility in that transition phase. For students who are located in North America, the clinical transition phase is also the time where we give you access to preparatory materials and time to go through those materials and prepare for your US medical licensure exam, step 1. So you take your USMLE step 1 after your CTU 1 before you start your CTU 2 class, which we give you ample time to prepare. We use the National Board of Medical Examinations preparatory exams to make sure you're in the range of scoring well before you even take your exams. We have a dedicated program and 2 faculty members that work with you weekly and work with the set of students that are preparing for the USMLEs to ensure that you are on the right track to get that done. Once you pass your clinical transition phase, you move into the clinical phase. So this is the time that a lot of people look forward to. These are your core and elective rotations. So you do general practice, you do surgery, internal medicine, psychiatry, and so on and so forth, obs and gynae, pediatrics. And then you also have a set of elective rotations where, say you're really interested in cardiology, maybe you're going to take cardiology as your elective. Maybe you're really interested in certain areas of psychiatry, so you take an extra psychiatry elective. A lot of our students are really interested because they are aligned with our mission of serving underserved communities. They really want to be GPs in rural and remote areas, and so they'll do elective rotations in general practice in rural and remote areas. Each of our clinical rotations has a mirrored classroom, basically, that provides you with study materials and weekly lectures and reading materials to help support you through that clinical rotation. And then you have a clinical exam. You submit some case studies and a logbook of all the patients that you've seen in that rotation, and then you finish up and move on to your next rotation. At the very end of the clinical phase, students who are outside of North America take what we call our FCE, our final clinical exam, which is a multiple choice exam that's preparatory for exams like the Australian Medical Council exam and the NZ-REX. And students in North America, after their core rotations are completed, that's when they'll have time for prep and Part B, entered into the USMLE Step 2 prep program at OUM, which is no additional cost. And they'll take their USMLE Step 2. So at the time of graduation, they are ready for entry into the match. For students who are in Canada, they will be preparing at that time for the MCCQE, which is their licensure exam. So we're very much interested in making sure that you have all of the things you need to prepare for licensure and residency in your particular country. So depending on where you are geographically located, we sort of put you on a track to licensure in that area. So at the end of the clinical phase, there's the final clinical exam. We also have what we call an OSCE, an objective structured clinical exam, which is preparatory for those licensure exams. If you are in Canada, you don't have to take the OUM OSCE because you take the NAC, which is the national OSCE exam in Canada. So on and so forth. If you want a little bit more details about the examinations that you are required to take, we're happy to go into those in a little bit more detail, but sometimes it's confusing in this type of session. Just know that we are very well versed in what is required of you for licensure in your particular country. That's why we only serve the countries that we do, to make sure that all of your learning is going to be preparatory for your examinations. Everything that all of the rotations that you complete are necessary for your entry into your PGs, your PG1 or your residency one, so on and so forth. So that's a little bit about our preclinical phase, our clinical transition phase, and our clinical phase. So generally the program takes 4.5 to 5 years. And I did see in the Q&A that there was a question about the length of the program. So I'm going to answer that now. And Pepper first said, hello, Pepper here from California. Pepper. And you've said, since the curriculum is flexible, is there a maximum number of years allowed to complete the program? So we do have a policy that you should complete the preclinical phase within 3 years. This does not include leaves of absence. So if you need to take we do offer leaves of absence, which not all medical schools do. So sometimes if you have, a parent who needs support or medical care and you're the main caregiver for a certain period of time, we do allow you to take time off of your studies and away from the university to do things like that. So if you have to step away from your study for an approved reason and are on a leave of absence, it doesn't count towards the maximum amount of time that you have to complete the program. I think our overall length, I think, is 6 years. Is that current, Ms. Shanda? I can't remember.
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay.
But I'll also say that like she mentioned, flexible curriculum, the program's not flexible in that sense. You do have to do unit by unit by unit. It's not, you don't decide when you want to study this unit or that unit, etc. So you do have to follow the plan.
Yeah, you've got to complete everything. Do we give you some additional time because you happen to have things in your environment that require that? Absolutely, we do. We treat each of our students as individuals and we try to support them and meet them where they're at. But do you have to complete all the requirements that are required for any medical student to become a doctor? Yes, absolutely, you do. We are just sometimes able to support you in a way that other medical schools wouldn't because we have a smaller student body. We're set up in a way that allows for that support. And that's how we operate as people. Like, we're working with you on a one-to-one basis. We care about you as a student and getting you through the program. If we invest in you, we are invested. Okay, so that's our OUM curriculum. I'm just going to quickly look through the Q&A. Okay. Anonymous wants to know, if students fail a section or class, will they be expelled? So we allow for, by policy, you can fail classes up to 3 times through the duration of the program. So if you fail your first class, general principles, you are not able to move on until you pass general principles, because that is the base course that you need for all of the systems. So if you fail general principles at the first pass, we do allow you to take that when it's next offered, which is 6 months later. We don't expel you for that. If you fail it a second time, though, then you are up for we don't call it expulsion, we call it dismissal from the program. And we simply do that to protect your time and investment. If you're not successful in the program currently, it may be that you need to go out of the program, spend a little bit of reflection time, maybe do some further background work before you re-enter the program. So we don't ever think about it as we're kicking you out of school because you failed. You just maybe need that. So the other thing is, you might also fail a couple of classes in your preclinical phase, but you are able to move on. So let's say you pass general principles, you go into cardiovascular system, which is the next class. You pass cardiovascular system, but then you get into pulmonary. And for whatever reason, it's very difficult for you. Maybe there's things going on in your environment and didn't reach out and let the university know. So you didn't get the support that you needed and you end up failing that class. So pulmonary is not offered directly again. But you are able to go into the next class, urinary, and continue on, and then take pulmonary again once it's reoffered. So yes, if you fail a section or class, you are not expelled from the university. If you fail 3 times, we put you up for withdrawal, up for dismissal, and it's likely that you would be dismissed after that. That's our policy. Again, we try to work with students where they're at. We don't let students slip through the cracks and just fail 3 courses one after another. When you fail a class or even fail an exam, it triggers us to connect in with you and see what your needs are and try to develop a system of support around you to help you through that. Okay. Josh wants to know on the NBME, is there a certain percentile one must score prior to writing the USMLE, i.e. an average of 95% or so? So again, the USMLE step 1 is taken during the clinical transition phase, and students who are in our USMLE prep program do take NBME exams. I think they take the CBSE as their kind of pre-USMLE exam. Yes, we have a minimum score that you must get in order to be eligible for your USMLE Step 1. And the reason for that is that we don't want you to take the USMLE Step 1 and fail it, because that looks really bad for you. We'd rather you spend another few weeks in the prep program and get your score up to the level of passing before you take your USMLE Step 1. So it's not intended as like a hurdle to prevent you from taking the exam. It's intended for you to see where you're at and to get your score at the level that you should before you take the USMLE Step 1 exam. So that's a pass-fail exam. So NBME actually set the level of likelihood that you will pass. So we go with the level that the NBME sets. We don't set a personal level on top of that. Okay, Naya wants to know if students complete their Step 1, Step 2 exams earlier than expected, can they begin their clinical years earlier? Do they still have to spend extra time in a test prep year? No, as soon as you go into the test prep program, as soon as you're ready to take your NBME CBSE, you can take your NBME CBSE, and as soon as you meet the minimum threshold on that, you're eligible to take your USMLE Step 1 exam. So we don't hold you unnecessarily in that program. You can take longer if you need it. If you take less time, that's perfectly fine too. You're able to take your USMLE steps as soon as the testing shows that you're ready. Okay. Anonymous wants to know, I just want to be family medicine doctor in USA. Can I minimize my clinical rotation phase or fast track rotation? Just be family medicine. Family medicine is the best kind. You need to know the most when you're in general practice. So no, you cannot fast track the clinical phase in terms of like, you can't take fewer rotations. You need to have all your rotations, especially for family medicine, because you're going to be working with all of those clinicians. So you need to have a working relationship established during your clinical rotations and understand what they do so that you can refer your patients appropriately. Also, we don't set the standards for the rotations that are required for licensure in the various countries. So that's those clinical rotations and your time in them is based on what the needs of the licensure bodies is, and not our personal wants and needs. Okay. Do you have help getting into residency? Absolutely, we do. So we have a dean for Australia and North America, and we have a dean for Samoa, Aotearoa, New Zealand, and the Asia Pacific. So those deans are responsible for running programming for their countries that support our students on their residency applications. So we have offices that help prepare the paperwork and get that all off. So your application is complete on time. We have things like interview prep. We run seminars with students who have successfully matched in their residency, and they'll talk with you about kind of what the things that they did were. So we do have dedicated resources in place to help support your getting into residency. And then, of course, we support you through the program so that you're getting the grades and completing the requirements that you need for residency. Okay. If Yvette wants to know, if I fail a class in this curriculum and retake it and pass, is that original failure counted towards the three strikes, or is it erased completely? No, if you fail a class, that is on your transcript. That's part of your three fails. So it doesn't get erased. That still counts. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. So this is a bit of a weekly plan about what it might look like for you if you are in medical school. So medical school is a full-time occupation. There's some questions in the Q&A. Has anyone completed the program while working full-time? Can I complete the program while working full-time? There are students who do work and do complete our program. Is it something that I would recommend? Absolutely not. Is it something that is a reality for some students? Absolutely it is. So am I going to say absolutely not, you cannot work while you're completing the program? No, I'm not going to say that. And we're not going to disqualify your application if you say that you need to work in order to attend medical school. However, I have some recommendations for you. So what I would recommend is that if you know that you're going to be working whilst you're in medical school, or it is just something that you need to do, what I would suggest is that you plan to have as much time off as possible as you start your degree. That's the most difficult time for most of our students because that is the time that they're needing to get into the rhythm and cadence of how you do medical school, how you study in medical school, how you learn information, how you retain information. So I really recommend that students take that beginning part off and then add work back in if they possibly can. I definitely have seen students who have had to take leaves or have had to step away and come back later because they thought, well, I'll just start working full time and then pull back. It's very difficult to do that. It's really taxing, not only on your time, but on your brain too. And you really want to just give yourself the best start to getting into something that's really like an ultra marathon. Medical school is not a sprint. It's like you are running, 100 kilometers every week. So you have to prepare yourself mentally and physically for that. So here's kind of a sample of what medical school looks like at OUM. And you'll see in this schedule, if you're reading along as I'm talking, that we're not just thinking about the fact that you have to attend class at the times that I said, but you also need time for study. You also need time for working with the other students. You also need time for sleep. You also need time for your family and your friends. You need time for physical activity. You need time for eating meals. So it's really important when you are going through your study schedule, which there is a template available to you when you are going through your application. And we like to see that because we like to see that you've thought about this. And it's good for you as you're thinking about yourself as a person on a medical student journey. Is this something that I can take on at this time? Am I really ready to do this and commit to this kind of schedule for the long term? So I'm not going to go through this in like a huge amount of detail, but just to remind you to kind of think about that. Think about what's feasible for you and how you're going to work this into your life, because it's really a way of life. It's a way of state of being. Being a medical student is a way of life. It's not something you do off of the side of your desk. It becomes a part of who you are and has to be worked in to the schedule of who you are, who you show up as on a daily, a weekly, a monthly, and even a yearly basis. So keep that in mind. All right, student ambassadors. So I do want to encourage you to reach out to our student ambassadors. It's really helpful just to know what someone else's experience was. Do they like the school? Is it working for them? How did they do it? Did they work? Do they have kids? Do they have parents that they're taking care of? Or is English their second or third language? These are all things that you want to hear from somebody else who's been through it. So if you want to reach out and talk to a student, we encourage you to do that. We don't wish for you to randomly contact any student at OUM just because we want to protect our students and their time. just from you see from the last slide, our students are really busy. Sometimes they're really stressed. A lot of times they're really stressed. Sometimes it's distress. Sometimes it's eustress. But these students have said, yes, all of those things for myself, but I want to commit this next year to really helping new students on their journey and giving them some information. When I was in their shoes, I had someone that helped me, and I want to be that person for them this year. So these are students that we encourage you to reach out to. You can pick somebody that's in your area. You can pick someone that's in preclinical if you are interested in the preclinical phase. You can pick someone who's in the clinical if you want to know more about that. If you're not sure who might be able to answer your question, the general email is there, studentambassadors@oum.edu.ws. You can email that and someone will get back to you with your queries. Sometimes they'll, if you want, and you're local to them, they'll meet you for coffee if you want. They'll have a Zoom with you. They'll text with you. They're happy to connect with you in ways that work for you. So I do encourage you to reach out to them. All right, in addition to our student ambassadors, we also have a student success advisor program. And this is really helpful for students who are getting back into the swing of studying. One of the things that we tell all our students is like, it's not just about how smart you are. It's really about being strategic with how you run your day, your week, your month while you're in medical school. So our student success advisors are really here for that part. They help you with your study habits and your study skills. They answer your questions about your work-life balance. They help you with time management, which you wouldn't think would be an issue. It really is. Time management is a huge learning curve, a huge skill. When you're in medical school, they provide you with ongoing support. They provide just a source of ongoing connection with you. So we really encourage all of our students to have student success advisors. There's no cost to this program. And once you're matched with an SSA, you can have that person. They're usually either a faculty member or a student who's a graduate who's now practicing. And they're matched with you throughout the entire program. So they can sometimes they're just there if you want to like vent, which can be really helpful too. So we encourage all of our students to be part of that program. We do have a number of other student support programs that I encourage you to look at on our website. So if you require accommodations to participate in the learning environment on the same basis as students who don't have medical or disability needs or who aren't caregivers for individuals with medical or disability needs. There's some information for you on our website under a section called Accommodation, Equity, and Inclusion Planning. We have peer supporters who are there that provide non-medical support for you when you are just like, oh my gosh, I don't know how I'm going to get through this. And you're like, okay, well, I could talk to someone who has been in that situation and can get through that. So that's what our peer supporters are for. We have an OUM Student Association. You're welcome to reach out to them directly as you are making your decisions about your medical student journey and your admission to medical school, about some of the things that the Student Association does to support the community and support student advocacy within and outside the school. So there's some other programs on there. There's this whole section on the website called Student Support Programs. So I encourage you to have a look there. And then if you have questions, to talk to your admissions counselor, and they can provide you with some further information relevant to your situation. Okay, Q&A, Shanda. Okay, we gotta help me get through this Q&A box. So we are at the end of our hour. Miss Shanda and I are gonna stick around to answer questions as long as we're able to before we have to step into meetings. If you're not able to stay because we're at the end of the hour, completely fine. We're not going to keep you here. This session is recorded, and you're welcome to come back and look at the Q&A at a time that's more convenient to you. If we don't get to your question, we will get back to you directly, since unless it's anonymous, then we won't get back to you directly. We'll just try to do it. We'll try to do it in this session. But if you have your name attached to your question, we will get back to you directly. Okay, here we go, Ms. Shanna. Let's see. Oh, there's a lot of questions. I have 44 open questions, so we'll see what we can get to today. Okay. All right. I'm going to start with this one at the very top from Anonymous. With my full-time job and elderly parent care, what's the realistic weekly study time for preclinical years 1 and 2? We always say it's at least 40 hours, 40 to 50 hours a week. Doesn't matter what your external situation is. Other people have that and do it too. You've got to figure out what works for you. Some people are more or less efficient at studying and they can do that. Um,
Can I also,
yeah,
sorry, just on
yeah,
that,
yeah.
point out that on our website, under the curriculum, the preclinical curriculum, we have an example of what time commitment you'll need, and it talks about, study times, work and travel, health and fitness, etc. So you're welcome to have a look at that as well as a good example of how you might, what the time commitment is for the university's program.
Okay. Shanda, let's try to rapid fire through these ones. So you read the next one and answer it as briefly as you can.
Are we still reading that really long question?
Yeah, we'll see which of us can go fastest through it.
What time are the online classes? We've talked about that, but it's also on the website under accepted applicants page. Just go there and it talks about the classes and the times they're offered. How is testing done?
Online platform, online proctor.
Mm-hmm. Can we retake exams?
Yes, you have to have a minimum score and you can retake an exam.
Yeah, I think we've answered the next one. Can we extend modules across 3 years instead of 2? So as we talked about, the curriculum isn't flexible. You do have to follow the plan, but we do allow for breaks, leave of absence if approved, etc.
Would accommodations exist for live virtual sessions if they conflict with my EST work hours? They're recorded. You can come back to them, or you can attend
Well, we
the
do offer
morning
the
session.
alternative.
Yeah, you can go to the morning session.
Yeah. So we, as I said, we consider your applications holistically. So the question is, will my EDD and 24 years of experience count towards prerequisite coursework and GPA requirements? So we do look at the applications holistically. We look at your GPA, but we also look at your work experience. We look at your what you've been educated in, your study plan, and so many more things, your essay. So we consider everything. So if you want to apply, just put everything into your application.
Can I schedule all 48 weeks core rotations and 24 weeks electives near Newark, New Jersey in this person's case? But for anyone, insert your local place there to stay with my elderly parent. We do not guarantee that all rotations can be scheduled within a specific location. It will just depend. But we do have an office that will work with you directly to schedule your core rotations. I will say that I'm not going fast enough. I will say that the more the higher your ability to travel and go to different places, the more easy it is to schedule your rotations in a more time compressed manner. Okay.
I'm just going to add in Australia for that one.
Yeah.
Australia, New Zealand, you do have to travel. So, don't come in thinking you'll be able to stay in your local area. It will disadvantage you greatly. So do be prepared to travel Australia for your rotations if you are in Australia.
What's the process for extending core rotations to double count as electives? We don't allow double counting. Got to do separate. And are there USMLE Step 1 prep programs specifically for mature students? We have a single USMLE Step 1 prep program, but it is tailored to each individual student. So we use the NBME exams to help tell us where you have areas of strength and weakness, and then your program is tailored based on that. Okay, we got through it. Let's go to the next one. Which universities, hospitals in the US do students have their 3 and 4 years? Again, we don't guarantee specific hospitals in the United States or elsewhere because our rotations are constantly changing based on our student needs. So we'll usually give you, once you're in your clinical transition years, you will then have you will work with our clinical rotations team to schedule your rotations based on your needs and the available rotations at that time. Again, be prepared to travel for the best experience and for most needs. Does Pepper wants to know, does OUM accept transfer credit from other medical schools? And is there a maximum amount that can be transferred?
We have a transfer policy available on our website. So you do have to be a current student at that medical school and it has to meet certain requirements. And you also have to meet certain requirements. So I would just direct you to the website to check out that policy and see if you meet that. If you studied at medical school several years ago and you want that credit, no, unfortunately, we don't issue credit for previous medical studies. You have to be a current student and meet the requirements.
Anonymous wants to know, are all your classes online? So all of our preclinical classes, our clinical transition unit have their background. Our clinical rotations classes are all offered in Moodle. So yes, there's online components for all of the classes that are available to you. So you do need an internet connection in order to access those, except for that you're able to download the content. So sometimes our students are like on flights that are 10 hours at a time, so they'll download the content for their class and then they can go forth and do that. Okay. Let's see. My main concern is investing time and money and then failing the program due to working 40 hours a week. Due to elderly parents or otherwise. What's the graduation rate and dropout rate? And does the university do everything it can to retain students or drop them if a class is failed, for example? It's very rare that we have students failing out due to having to care for elderly parents or having to care for children because they let us know in advance. And then we put supports in place to help them do that. So does that mean that we're like changing the program, making it easier for you? Absolutely not. But does that mean that we can offer you accommodations that allow for you to participate in our program on the same basis of other students? Absolutely, it does. So we do work with you to support your needs, but you have to let us know what those needs are. So both Ms. Shanda and I work with students on a honestly, on a daily basis. I see 4 students a day that have, because I have 4 office hours a day and they have 4 students a day coming because they have personal needs in their life that require some kind of accommodation, or they're trying to get through a hurdle, or they don't want to fail a class. So that's what I do every single day. That's why the university has me here, because I'm able to resolve those problems. We have very few students that are dropping out because of that. Does it happen occasionally? It does, but I would say the main reason is because students let us know too late that they have a problem that could have been resolved earlier on if we had known. Okay, that's encouraging to hear, OUM. It's not just about numbers. Absolutely, it's about you. It's about our community. There are a couple of questions about tuition rate and costs and affordability. Instead of Ms. Shanda and I answering these, what do you think about just referring them to the upcoming session, Ms. Shanda?
Yep. So that is actually on the next slide. So actually, no, it's not. It's coming up. I'll just bring it up online. Yeah. So we've got live webinars coming up, and one of them is the tuition, your tuition and fees questions answered. That is run by our bursar on the 19th for the US or North America, and the 20th of February for Australia and New Zealand and Samoa. So yeah, we highly encourage you to attend that session because the fees and tuition and fees are complicated, which is why we don't put the amount on the website. It depends how you pay, it depends how long it takes you to get through the program, and various other things. So highly encourage you all to attend that session so you can get your questions answered there about the tuition and fees.
Dimitri wants to know, what's the attrition rate at OUM? And I know that communications and marketing does a number of data pulls, but I don't know if you have that specific rate.
Not at the moment.
I mean, what I would say is that we do a comparison with some schools that also have students that are non-traditional types of students, or students that are needing a program that's more tailored to their needs. And a lot of those programs take in a large number of students, and then the students are failing in the first couple of classes. We are not interested in taking in students and then having them fail out. If we have taken you in, we are already invested in you. Like, we're already putting our time and effort into developing you into a clinician. So we have no interest in failing you out. We take a smaller number of students because those are the students we want to see continue through the program. And as soon as you come in, we're investing in you to get you to complete the program. So I don't know our attrition rate offhand either. Most of the time, we have students leave because they may have a financial issue or they may have a significant change in their own circumstances that just doesn't allow them to complete the program. It's very, very seldom that we have students leaving because they can't kind of like hack it in the program. That's not how we operate. That's not our MO. Okay.
If we go, oh, sorry, I was just gonna
go ahead, Ms. Shanna.
No, I was just going to talk about the next steps if we don't have any more questions, but I don't want to.
Yeah, let's talk about next steps while I find some more.
All right. Okay, so as we talked about, the application deadline, really important, don't miss it, or your application will be postponed to the next intake. So if you're applying for July, it is the 1st of March, and if you're applying for January, it is the 1st of September. So don't miss that deadline. Keep an eye out on your emails and see what we're saying is missing from your application, and get in touch with your admissions counsellor as well. Acceptance deadline. So if you are accepted into the program, you do have an acceptance deadline where you need to provide your post-acceptance documents to us and pay your intake fee. So that is due by the 1st of December for January intake and the 1st of June for July. And the orientation weeks are there as well. So if you're coming in for July, it will be in June, the 23rd to the 26th for North America, 24th and the 27th for Australia, New Zealand and Samoa. And the dates are there for January as well if you're interested in applying for January. We did have a question about that and someone was having leave. It will be during that leave, so you've got to plan for that. Okay.
The remaining questions look like they're mostly about kind of where rotations are and what. So what I'm going to do with those is I think it's best if you talk with your admission counselor about, where would the rotations be for me? What would that look like for me specifically? It's harder for us to answer that in this kind of forum because we just don't know a lot about you or the specifics of your needs. And so it's really best if you talk with your admissions counselor directly about that. And if you have posed a question with your name in our Q&A, we'll provide that directly to your admissions counselor and they'll get back to you so they can have that discussion with you. Okay, upcoming live webinars. Have we talked about this other than the tuition one? Okay.
So we've got live webinars available. They're coming up so you can meet the student ambassadors, an OUM graduate for North America or from Australia and New Zealand or Samoa. So catch those if you want to listen to those. We also have webinars available on demand. So previous webinars that you can watch on either our website or on our YouTube channel. So, just go and have a look, have a watch.
Yeah. And we encourage you, if you do have like questions from the recorded webinars and stuff, again, you can reach out to your admissions counselor and they're there. You don't have to be like, oh, I missed it, so I don't have an opportunity to ask. No.
Yeah. You can please reach out to us.
Yeah. We're nice. Like talking to you. Okay. Ms. Shanda, thank you so much for being here. I always have a good time in these webinars with you. And I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us in our community today. We enjoyed getting to know you a little bit more, and we hope to see you at our upcoming webinars and maybe even welcome some of you to our class in June or even January next year. So Fafatai, everyone, thank you for being here and see you all soon.
Thank you so much.